Welcome to the Choice Magazine podcast, Beyond the Page, the official podcast of Choice, the magazine and professional coaching, where we bring you amazing insights and in-depth features that you just won't find anywhere else. I'm your host, Gary Schleifer, and I'm excited to expand your learning as we dive into the latest articles, have a chat with the brilliant authors behind them, and in this case, they're on either side of me, and uncover the learnings that are transforming the coaching world. This is your go-to resource for all things coaching. Let's dive in. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Master Certified Coach Chariti Gent and Executive Coach Annette Siewertsen, who are the authors of an article in our latest issue, Coaching Education in Flux, the ongoing evolution of a dynamic field, which it is for sure. The article is entitled, What Makes a Good Educator? 6 Essential Skills and Best Practices. Chariti Gent is the Director of Professional Coaching Education at the University of Wisconsin, where she directs the portfolio of coaching education programming, including the Level 2 Certified Professional Coach Program, the Skills Sharpener Series of group mentoring, and the Leader as Coach, a framework for coaching in organizations. Awesome. She received her formal training and certification at the same place I did, the Coactive Training
I
Institute.
didn't know you were CTI. Of course, I
Yes.
should have
Should have known. We get
detected
along.
it.
We get along. Did you do leadership?
I did not, although I've
No,
always thought it would be a brilliant thing to do. So many
it
people I know
is.
have gone through
It
it. Yeah.
is. Yeah. Still connected with my people from '09.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's
actually have a
awesome.
call right after this with one of my classmates from, '09. Same thing.
Ah, brilliant.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
we all stick together. You became a master certified coach in 2020. You're serving as the ambassador for coaching education for the North America, Latin America, and Caribbean regions of the ICF, and you're a member of the ICF Credential
The accreditation
Global
advisory committee.
Accreditation Committee.
Yeah.
Annette, on the other hand, is a CEC and a PCC, and she is a learning and development advisor with a graduate certificate in executive coaching. I'm guessing that's what the CEC is, right?
That's right. Certified Executive Coach.
Where'd you get that one from? Is that Royal Roads?
Yeah.
Okay. Canadian University, go Canada.
Yeah.
We just name countries, we don't name our mascots, okay? So she's a graduate in the advanced coaching practices and has an MA in executive and organizational coaching programs at Royal Roads University. She completed her graduate certificate in executive coaching, hence the CEC, in 2012, and is currently completing her MA in executive and organizational coaching. Good for you. Annette serves as the ICF Global Knowledge Community co-leader for the North America, Latin America, and Caribbean regions. Thank you so much both for joining us. And thank you so much for being so generous with your time for the International Coaching Federation and everything that gets done there. Can't happen without us volunteers, right?
That's right.
That's right. Takes the village.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for
Yeah.
thanks for having us.
Yeah, well, I'm thrilled because it's an excellent article and I can't wait to delve into it. I have a few questions of my own. But I want to ask what inspired you to write this article at this time, and how did the two of you figure out you wanted to do it together?
Well, I saw that Choice put out, this is Charity. I saw that Choice put out a basically request for ideas that we might want to contribute to this edition that was going to be coming out around coaching education. And because Annette and I have worked so closely together and have a fabulous working relationship through our ICF Global Coach Knowledge community, I just reached out to her knowing she was at Royal Roads doing much the same thing I'm doing here at the UW-Madison. And I just said, hey, you want to co-author an article? And she said, sure.
Just like that, eh?
And that's how it happened.
That's pretty much how it happened. Yeah.
And here they are. Listen to
we
this, folks. This is how easy it is to get published in Choice. Find somebody that you love working with, pick a topic, and dive on in. And here they are. So thank you so much for that. Amazing article. I can't, like I said, can't wait to get into it. But you give six essential skills and best practices. But what's the one thing you must focus on to be successful in coaching education? And I'll let both of you answer that one separately. Each of you. Oh, she's pointing at you, Annette.
All righty. Actually, this article really, really makes me reflect on what are we not saying, right? What's missing? So we always have a diverse group of students constantly. Every single cohort's different,
Yeah.
right? So, what do we need to pay attention to while we're engaging with all these students?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I would say that I think it's that always be learning piece that is so key. That was one of the things we said in the article. And I think
Yeah.
that goes right to your point, Annette. Always be learning ourselves, always stay humble and be learning.
Oh, that's a good addition. Always stay humble and be learning and open
Mhm.
to learning. And it's funny you say that, and I was reading it, and I'm like, well, we already are. And then I remember you were talking about training and educating new students. So reminding them of one of the things that makes us successful is a continuous learning, because we talk about continuous learning all the
Yeah.
time. And we
Yeah.
were at the conference together,
Exactly.
there we go. Um, Most important piece of advice you give someone who's starting a professional coaching program or an established one?
Hmm.
Yeah. So if I was starting a coach training program, I don't know, Annette, what's coming to your mind if you were starting one?
I would say staying in learner's mindset,
Yeah.
staying in curiosity. Again, always learning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What more do we need to know? What more can we share? Because knowledge is only useful when shared.
Yeah. And I think too, like one of the first moves I would make or tell someone to make would be to that end to join the coach. Here's our plug for our
Yeah.
ICF
You
Global
go.
College
There we
community.
Self-promotion.
go.
Join the community. I mean, there's such a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of information. It's almost overwhelming. But you'll get a ton of advice from fellow coach educators through the discussion boards, through the library of resources, and you'll just start to forge and create connections with others who are doing what you're doing because it's not like there's a million of us out there. We're small but mighty and continuing to grow as a coach educator community. And there's just so much to know. So lean in and lean on those of us who've come before you. It's a very generous community in terms of sharing knowledge and information.
Yeah,
It truly
coaches in
is.
general are very collaborative, supportive. We're not competitive. We want when well, when one rises, we all rise. That.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and to that point too, is that we've got other regions too, right? So yes, interacting with our NALAC, the North America, Latin American, Caribbean, but we've also got two other regions that we do interact together with in these communities, whether it's on the forums, attending their discovery series, which could be a guest speaker, it could be something to learn. We were doing competencies, about to do another one this month. And it's a real nice way for coaching educators to engage with each other, to learn, like Charity has said, but also perhaps unlearning a little bit too.
Mm,
Things are always evolving with the International Coaching Federation as well as with coaching education.
yeah.
Oh, and education in general. I mean, one of your
Yeah.
points is educate yourself in curriculum development and instructional design. I'm like, okay, that's got to be changing like crazy.
Oh yeah.
AI and all that sort of stuff. And you match that with how much we've evolved as coaches, how much wiser the consumer is on what to look for, what to expect, ROI, good coaches, bad coaching, etc. So yeah. Well, and that brings me to, so how's AI impacting coaching education?
I think that's a whole other discussion. I mean, there's
Another
so
article?
much happening. It's not going away,
Yeah,
right? Are we implementing it? We're not yet. I'm curious, and I'd love to learn more about other schools that are. I mean, it's
yeah.
here. So I shouldn't say we are not. I mean, we are exploring
Well,
different things.
and something as simple as transcripts, come on. I
Yeah.
mean, that's basically augmented AI. Another school I did work with used something called Ray Notes, and
Yeah.
you could tag, you listen to, transcribe, you listen to and tagged what you heard as core competencies and the different levels, the different markers and all that sort of stuff. Was
Yeah,
it?
I played with Raynotes a little bit, and I think we've decided not to adopt it yet. However, we're kind of starting to look at ways in which it can be integrated
Mhm.
or things like a Raynotes, and it seems perhaps that for us it might be a good thing to use for the final performance evaluation. It could help to
Yeah.
increase or speed up the time of that it takes to evaluate. But you still have to have, of course, the human element to go back through and make sure that everything is the
Yeah.
way you think it should be. Yeah.
And that's the thing about AI. I even talking into this crazy thing. I struggle to get the AI to, first of all, you have to be careful about your question. You have to be very,
Yeah.
expansive in
Know how to prompt
question.
it. Mhm.
But in the end, to your point, in the end, it still requires you to go, is that really what I wanted to know? Is that my voice? If you're doing emails and stuff like that. And
Right.
it still, at this point, still requires that finesse to make it you, right?
Yeah,
And
I've been encouraging our students to go in and my faculty to go in and play with some of these platforms that are doing AI coaching just to kind of get a feel for it. That's sort of been our goal this year in terms of how do we integrate this in our curriculum. So
Mm,
there are some, there are various platforms out there which will automate the AI process. And what I find is that it is so powerful at a very basic level for what I would call transactional coaching.
right.
If you want to get into true transformational coaching, the AI is not there yet. Like, so that's why I think, people worry, our coach is going to go away. Not anytime soon.
Yeah.
Humans have a certain way of reasoning and feeling and being that just simply cannot be replicated by that AI, at least at this point. But I encourage people to go in and play around with the different platforms out there that will coach you, and just, you can set up a free account on a lot of them and just play for 15 minutes and see what comes back. It's really quite fascinating.
Yeah.
I
Overcome the
totally
fear
agree
with
with that.
knowledge. Sorry,
Yeah,
Annette?
I do agree with Charity because coaching has brought the art of conversation back. So AI, it's artificial, right? It's not a human. It's
Mm,
not one of us speaking to each other. So I agree, Charity. Coaching is not going away because you need
yeah.
that being, that sense of being and that empathy and
Mm.
just creating that safe space. How does AI create a safe space?
Right. And
Well,
I mean, I think with the empathy thing, what's fascinating is that the AI will often come back with, oh, that must be hard for you. How do you want to XYZ? So then you say, you type in your answer and then it'll come back and say, oh, that sounds distressing. How do you want to act on this? So
yeah.
the empathy is built in the words, but not in the feeling behind the
Exactly.
level. There's no level 3 going on in AI.
No,
Good point. Good point. It handles level 1 and level 2, but not 3. Interesting because I met a couple of guys at the conference at the Midwest Regional ICF conference, and they're creating a mini me, if you will. So there's me, the coach, but there's a AI version of me, which is going to be used as a marketing tool, and it's going to train based on how I coach. And I'm going to
oh,
watch the transcripts and I'm going to look at it.
Wow.
So I'm going to work with it to teach it how to coach like me. And yes, it will be transactional, but it'll also lead to other clients. So the democratization of coaching is needed. I mean, let's face it, there's 9 billion people plus on the planet, and how many coaches are there?
Right.
So
And it's expensive. This helps to kind of for some people, keep it accessible.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Switching
not there.
topics.
The AI,
Well, and
no.
one more thing. So another gentleman who I think we know, Charity, at least from the conference, Jonathan Wrights,
Yeah.
he's been playing with all of that. So if anybody wants to know, reach out to him. He's got some I don't know if they're some information sessions or coaching training on augmented AI, which augmented means it supports the coach and the client, versus generative, which is what I was talking about, a little bit more on the learning and growth side, the part we fear because of things
Yes.
matrix, etc.
Is Jonathan the one then that does the mini avatar of you? Or is that Alex Morelli? Was it Morelli?
Oh, you're talking about RESPECT? Respect?
Yes, thank you. That's what I was thinking
Respect
of.
is Owl Hub, and it's David Morelli.
That's at Owl Hub. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Is that the
yeah,
one that's the mini me avatar kind of thing,
yeah,
or?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, that's Amigo. That was the next
Oh.
booth over.
Oh.
Sorry, we're reminiscing here. Here we
All
go.
good,
That's
all
who
good.
I'm
It's
meeting
just
with this
happening to hear
afternoon
some
to talk
man.
about it. So I'm gonna dive in and see what it can do. And I'm
Yeah.
diving in because somebody else is already doing it, and I don't want them to be the only one out in the field. So
Right.
so there's my competitive streak coming up.
And it's not going away,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Not
exactly.
going
Something we
away.
have to think about.
Exactly. And it's been here for a long time. I mean, just look
Yeah.
at Zoom. It's been augmented with AI for ages. They're throwing more stuff all the time. We'll
Well,
live.
and as
Well,
trainers too, I think about like you could bring in the AI to enhance the training of
right.
coaches. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well, what do you
It's
think
interesting
LMS and
because
stuff is?
Say that again?
What do you think LMS is? It's basically
Right.
a form of
Right.
AI. Those
Right.
little chat bots that you have when you've got a problem with something,
that's true.
customer service, that they're doing all of that, and then they're going, "Would you like to speak to a live agent?" See what I mean? You still
Yes.
need a human.
Yes.
Yeah.
I prefer to talk to
That's
a
true.
human, to be honest, but I'm old school, and maybe the youngins. Maybe the youngins. Anyway, switching gears. I want to get on. So I'm torn between how to ask this question. So I'm going to say it and then I'm going to repeat it with the two different ways. One word change. How are issues like culture, diversity, and systemic inequities being left out of coaching education conversations? And why are issues like culture, diversity, and systemic inequities being left out of coaching education conversations? Go.
Well, for me, I think that they're becoming more and more prevalent in coaching
Mhm.
conversations now. It's big, it's such an awareness, right? That inclusive feel, the community that we have of coaches. I know that we are bringing more awareness. I mean, I don't train students per se. I lead the deliveries of our coaching programs at Rural Roads. And diversity, it's just such a huge topic now. So we do include it in our pre-residency with different ways of learnings. Students that are not speaking as much, trying to incorporate them, but in a respectful way, right? So just setting out that psychological safety per se, I guess, for everybody in the room,
Yeah.
including instructors.
Yeah. Would you say it's also because it got a bit more prevalent or a bit more focus on in the revised competencies,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, it's part
Yes.
of coaching.
Huh?
It is part of coaching.
Yeah.
It's the being.
Well, and I think to the why question, it wasn't part of coaching for a very long time. And in
Yep.
fact, I think there was a bit of a resistance against bringing it into as being sort of the cauldron in which everything sits within coaching. And it wasn't until those 2019 competencies came out with the the client context and client identity being a big part of understanding the coaching relationship that and the client themselves has really driven a lot of it. I think there's a lot of how to be figured out yet. How do you bring diversity, equity, systemic ideas into coaching education? I mean, for us, we redesigned our entire curriculum centering cultural humility at the core. Did we get it right? No, of course not. Every year we're tweaking and changing and trying to bring in different voices, non-Western, non-white,
Yeah.
alternative kinds of media, right? Like
Yeah.
not the same stuff that we've all been seeing forever. And it's not, it takes time. It just takes a lot of time, which is we're willing to put in the effort, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Always has, always is.
Aren't we always?
Yeah.
And students only see what we offer, what we deliver.
Yes.
So even though there's work going on behind the scenes for a cohort that's coming up, this cohort may not quite be where, you know what I mean? Like we're always improving as well. We look at every evaluation and we try to incorporate what we can. Some things we can't because it's university, so
Yeah.
Yes.
through
Yes.
academic steps.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that we're never going to have it right. We can't. You'll never be able to please everybody.
Can't
I
please
find it
all the people all
fascinating
the time.
too. Yeah. I find it fascinating that some of the resistance we actually have encountered comes from our own students who go through our programs and are like, why is this part of a coaching curriculum? I don't understand. And so it's overcoming some of that. It's not just overcoming finding and sourcing and bringing it to the curriculum and centering this kind of otherness, but it's also how is it received and getting students past the hump of opening up their own awareness to try to begin to understand and empathize.
I'd be
Yeah.
curious if there's a difference between the Canadian and the American,
Oh, I'm sure.
right? Because it
And
is
it's
a
a
different
Canadian
culture.
American, which part?
The cultural pieces and
Oh,
even the diversity
hugely.
aspects of how we feel, right? Because Indigenous lands are really big for us. Like it's just something that we take very seriously. Land acknowledgments, our students ask for it. Some students don't want it all the time. Like it's again a work in progress
Yeah.
because it's different for everybody.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering the context of the diversity with the American students and our Canadian coaching educators. I'd be curious to see what the differences are because I think they're different lenses.
Well,
Yeah,
and if you
absolutely.
want to get, I was driving a lot to a conference and back, and I was listening to Robin DiAngelo's White Fragility, and she clearly points out when it's a difference between that's something that's more commonly known in the US versus in other parts of the world. So that's a source that she's aware of the differences and points them out in her book. Was Yeah, I thought I'd read it before, but I must have been dreaming it, because when I listened to that, I was just like blown away. One quick question for this is for a friend of mine. This came up when I was preparing for a call today. She's neurodiverse, and she's struggling with preparing for her PCC assessment, and apparently there's no consideration for neurodiverse challenges. What's your feeling on that, and what help can I offer her? Direction.
Well, I know the ICF is working on creating accommodations
Right.
for neurodiverse individuals. You can always ask for accommodations prior to taking the assessment, or so I
Right.
understand. I also will give a huge shout out to Carrie Abner at ICF, Vice President of Credentialing and Standards.
Yeah, Carrie, I
She
know
is
her.
completely aware of all of these issues and is working very hard to find the balance between really honoring all of the different needs of the learners and test takers with raising the bar on the credibility of our profession globally. And so those aren't mutually exclusive, but it's challenging a lot of
Mhm.
times.
Oh yeah, because like autism, it's a spectrum, right? Neurodiversity
Mhm.
is a spectrum. It's not black or white. It's this huge cloud of gray in a way. Like don't get me wrong, it's very clear for the person that's going through it, but how does even that, not just coach educators, but assessors in the assessment system accommodate this? So I will make sure. I thought she had said something about accommodations and had did not get the response she was expecting, so I'm going to send her
Mm,
to that source. So thank you.
yeah,
See,
yeah.
worthwhile even for the podcast coach.
There you go.
Thank you, thank you,
It's
thank
true, though.
you.
They do listen for sure. The ICF
Yeah,
staff, amazing.
yeah. And you talk about diversity, equity, inclusion in the culture section. What should trainers be thinking about learning? Where should they get learning on neurodiversity? Or would we just put that under do we put that under the category of continuous learning and put it under culture?
Yes, and very
She's trained well, this one.
much. We're always learning, right? And that is
Right.
part of the world now. And
Yeah.
and today, I mean, we're talking about what makes a good coaching educator, but also what's missing. What are we not hearing or seeing or saying? And
Yeah.
I think that comes with part of that too. So even at the very onset, we ask learning styles, just in a forum, just to see what are our students' learning styles, because they may not know that we have resources that we can reach out to our accessibility services and,
Right.
and set up a plan with them. But if they're not aware, it's like us, we don't know what we don't know. So
Yeah.
putting it out there and inviting them to engage in a conversation about it creates that safe space for those that want to engage, or it prompts them to reach out to us individually as a coaching educator or coaching
Mhm.
education staff to guide them and hold their hand to get the help that they to be successful in coach training.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can get some of those resources in places like the ICF Discovery series that is
Yep.
done by the different regions every single month. You can I've attended webinars before through the Institute of Coaching that talk about neurodiversity. The EMCC puts on things. There was one that just came through maybe 2 months ago this summer about neurodiversity and how to
Mhm.
manage it in a coaching relationship. So you just have to do a little bit of Googling and a lot
Yeah.
of stuff will come back at you. If you truly want to educate yourself about it, you can. It's out there. It's
Yeah.
definitely out there.
And the
Yeah.
Global Education Forum is a plethora of
Yes.
conversations. You can sort it by topic as well. There's
Oh, wow.
articles in the library. There's a resource library. It's getting people engaged, right, and having those conversations and feeling safe to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Well, if you do me a huge favor when we're done this recording, let us know, and we'll put it in the notes below the recording how to
Yeah.
get into that channel. All right.
Awesome.
Another big question, sort of in the same realm, but Are there important emotional or ethical challenges in coaching we're not addressing in our coach training programs?
Ethics is everywhere.
Yeah.
It is
Ethics is
everywhere.
everywhere. Yeah.
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 Everything we say, everything we do, and just, being really mindful of what are we saying, what are we doing, knowing the differences as well. There's another thing with now we've got, trauma-informed coaching. So as coaches, we're
Mhm.
coaches. We're not trained as therapists, right?
Right.
However, there's so much of this going on right now. So I think ethically, we have a commitment to our coaching community to be sure that we are speaking and writing and
Yeah.
delivering ethically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Uh,
from the DEI lens too, right? Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
you can't talk the talk of the importance of context and identity if you're not creating accessible structures for people to walk through in order to even arrive at a place where they can get trained and or be coached. That's a constant struggle, constant struggle.
And feeling belonged, right? So when
Yes.
you're in a coaching conversation or in a coach training class or on a team or a triad,
mhm.
that sense of belonging to ensure that that's happening.
Yeah. That's wow, I can't believe I forgot the word belonging in the DEI
Yeah.
section of this conversation. I did and I didn't, because what was going through my head is whenever I'm in a group, I always look and say, is this a diverse group? And if not, why not?
Yeah.
Mm,
And not from a finger pointing, but more from well, what could I have done?
Curiosity. Yeah.
Right? Curiosity. And then the other question I always ask is, when I do have a diverse group, is what is being presented or what I'm presenting, can they see themselves in this?
mm,
Those are two of the questions. And this came up a few years ago with our board. Our board was totally white women and me. And I pointed it out and just put it right out there and said, okay, we're not representative of the world and coaching at large. And we put forward there are qualified people out there. There was no reason why we were like we were. And
Mhm.
fast forward, we're no longer that, and we're still looking for editorial board members. We'd like to have a few younger people out there who are listening. Please don't feel you have to be an expert in coaching in order to be on the editorial board, nor do you need to be an editor. You need to be involved in the coaching community enough to say, I'd like to participate in that conversation.
That's
So
great. I'll let my
mm,
students know.
yeah, yeah,
amazing.
and
Yeah.
reach out to me, and if they ever say, "Oh, well, he's probably way too busy," you cut them off and go, "Unless you have access to his calendar, you do not know if he's busy or not busy." Okay, just saying. Too many people
People
say
have
that
their
to
own
me, and I'm
stories.
like, "Oh, I let you in on my calendar? When did that happen?"
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Well, we know what a dynamic and, rock star you are. So we all just assume you're busy, doing your thing all over.
That's right.
assume. Come on. No,
You're very
as
well
are
known in the
you.
coaching world.
Yes.
Yeah, as are you, and I'm thankful that you were able to take the time and write the article and be here for the podcast and help go deeper with this conversation. I think like you say, it's always evolving. We're unlearning and relearning. We've got technical stuff. You even pointed out technological know-how, blah, blah, blah. and it's all this 6 balls. I'm sure that you could come up with a few more, but we only had so much space in the magazine. What would you like our audience to do as a result of the article in this conversation?
Well, I'd love to see them check out the Engage community from
Mhm.
ICF. That's the Global Coach Knowledge Community,
Mhm.
and get involved in that if they're a coaching educator. And if they are a student, to please continue on their growth and learning journey by getting involved with things like the ICF, going to conferences, always be learning, always, always, always be learning. I don't know if you would agree with that, Annette, or have other things to add, but that's what comes to my mind right away.
Absolutely. And also being curious about their local chapters,
Mhm.
and what events they're holding and just building those networks and like-minded people. Like Gary had said earlier, it's not competitive. It's a community. We are
Yeah.
all here to support each other, which
Yeah.
is one of the best. I love coaching. I mean, I live, breathe, eat coaching. So it is who I be. And I think that, the more we can talk about it, and it is still a fairly new profession.
Yeah.
So,
25, 30 years.
Yeah. 30 years, I think this year, in fact, is the ICF
Right.
anyways. ICF's
Yeah.
30th anniversary coming up,
Yeah,
if not
exactly.
already this year. Yeah. 25, I think. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and to both of you and for those listening, I am looking for my next ICF volunteer opportunity at an international level. So if there's a place you think I can fit in, let me know.
All right.
Well,
Well, I'm sure coaching education would love to have your input.
Well, I'm not a coach educator, but I'm interested if they are. So
Okay.
I don't know what they need, so I'm putting
Well, they
myself
might be
out
able
there.
to tell us who in the coaching in the ICF family
Yes,
might also
exactly. Yeah,
need assistance in
exactly. Yeah.
special knowledge. Yeah.
great.
Yeah. It's a wonderful
Well,
community to volunteer with.
like we say to our coaches, keep asking questions because that's basically the part of the job. Powerful questions. Yes.
Indeed.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for joining us for this Beyond the Page episode, Annette, Charity.
Thank you.
So great to have you here. So
Pleasure.
knowledgeable, so connected, and thank you, thank you.
My pleasure.
Our pleasure. It was fun, Charity and Gary. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Page. For more episodes, subscribe via your favorite podcast app. If you're not a subscriber to Choice Magazine, you can sign up for free for a free digital issue by, let's see if I get this right. No, dang, these reverse screens. By scanning the QR code in the top right corner of this screen, or by going to choice-online.com and clicking the Sign Up Now button. I'm Gary Schleifer. Enjoy the journey of mastery. Thanks again.